But here we go. As you all know, this is one of my favorite photos. Replacement theology turns Yeshua from this into this. Ah! He's a monster. Well, let's look at Jeremiah 31. When you hear Jeremiah 31, what comes to mind? What's in the scripture? The new covenant. Jeremiah 31:31. But before the new covenant, in the very same chapter, look at this prophecy in Jeremiah 31, verse 5 and 6. Again, you shall plant what? Vineyards on the mountains of Samaria. Okay, now realize that Samaria is part of Israel. The Palestinians want to claim it as theirs. And look at this. They're going to plant, as you know, like Mark Twain stated, Israel was a desert for 2,000 years. Nothing would grow there. But all of a sudden, Israel returned to the land. And it says, the planters will plant and shall enjoy the fruit. There shall be a day when watchmen will call in the hill country of Ephraim, arise, let us go to Zion, to the Lord our God. Do you know what the Hebrew word for watchman is here? Notzrim, which is the word for Christians. The Jews call Christians the Notzrim, which means the watchman. Now, look at this in Ezekiel 36, verse 8 through 11. It prophesies, you mountains of Israel, you're going to shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for they're coming. For behold, I'm for you. I will turn to you. You will be tilled and sown. I will multiply people upon you, all the house of Israel, even all of it, and the cities will be inhabited. The wastes will be built. I will multiply upon you man and beast. They shall increase and bring fruit. I will settle you after your old estates, and I will do better to you than it was at your beginning, and you should know that I am the Lord. Okay, watch this little video here about the prophecy being fulfilled right now.
In the times of the Bible, the promised land of milk and honey was Judea and Samaria, and the greatest symbol of this promise was the vineyard. For centuries, these regions were covered with vibrant, fertile grapevines. But after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, the Romans uprooted the vines and took them to Italy. For nearly 2,000 years, no vineyards existed on these mountains. But in the late 1990s, a few Jewish men came here with a goal to change that. Men like Yaakov Berg.
2,000 years ago, Israel known like the best wine country in the ancient world. The Roman Caesars, the Greeks, they brought their best wine, not from Italy, not from French. They brought it from here, from Israel. But for 2,000 years, the land was desert. It was impossible to grow something on those lands. And actually, a lot of people tried, and they couldn't succeed. I was born in Russia, and I came to Israel when I was 3 years old. It was always my father's dream to touch the land, to grow something. You know, if you will ask my father, do you believe that your son will own a vineyard or a winery in Israel, back then in Russia? I mean, he will cry or laugh, but for sure he's not going to believe to that. I remember when we started to plant the vineyards, everything it was rock. We need to drill into the rock in order to plant the vines. Everybody says, all the experts says, it's not going to work. Nothing will grow here. I don't think it's something that we can really understand. It's not that we changed the land. It's not that we brought a new soil or something like that. The land really came back to herself. It's like a dead man that came back to life.
The grapes Yaakov harvests to create his wines come from very special places. Elon Moreh, where God made his promise to Abraham. The Mount of Blessing, where Joshua said, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And Shiloh, where the Ark of the Covenant rested. The harvesters who pick these grapes are neither Israeli nor Jewish. Each year, hundreds of Christian volunteers from around the world travel to Israel to prune the vines and harvest the grapes of Jewish farmers in Judea and Samaria at no cost to the farmers.
The Bible promises three main things. First of all, that the Jewish people will come back to their homeland. Second, that the land will come back to us. And from the moment that we came back, it's become a heaven. The third thing that many people really forgot, they don't see it. But the Bible talks about it many times, all over. That the entire world will come and will participate and will try to help. It's unbelievable. When I see it, I'm crying. The fact that we came back here, okay. But why? Somebody that lives so far away, thousands of kilometers from here, would like to know what's going on, would like to support, would like to be with us, that we will walk together, you know. I think this is the biggest miracle that God gave us in, I don't know, the last 20, 30 years. Everybody that will come to Israel, touch the land and touch the people, it will change his life. Each one of us looking for something deeper than just the regular life. I believe and I feel and I know that in Israel, maybe it's the best place on earth to really feel it, to understand it. It's easier than all the rest of the world. To me, Israel, it's the best proof God exists and still acting in our world. I don't think you can find a better proof. I'm Yaakov Berg, and I am Israel.
When you're there, you can feel the heartbeat. You can feel the prophecies being fulfilled. And you are part of the prophecy. You literally are not watching prophecy. You are the prophecy being fulfilled when you're there. I want to go today, what I'm going to be talking about is the grape harvest, okay, and the wedding of the Messiah, and how all of that is tied in to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, now, there's something different about the grape harvest in Israel. All right? It's not like the wheat or the barley. If you remember, barley harvest was fulfilled at Passover. Wheat harvest was fulfilled at Shavuot. What's going to be fulfilled now is the grape harvest. Okay? So we need to understand the grape harvest if we want to understand the book of Revelation and the second coming. All right, but we also have to tie in the other prophets because that's where it comes from. So we begin with Isaiah 63, 2 through 4. It says, "Why are you red in your apparel and your garments like him that's treading in the wine fat?" And then God says, "I have trodden the winepress all by myself. And of the people there was no one with me. I will tread them in my anger, trample them in my fury. Their blood will be sprinkled on my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come." Wow, here he's going to be, this is in the Isaiah, talk about him treading the winepress. Well, look at Revelation chapter 19, 14 through 18. "The armies are in heaven are following him on white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. Out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he will smite the nations. He will rule them with a rod of iron." And what happens? He's treading the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. He has on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. I saw an angel standing in the sun. He cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that are flying in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that you may eat the flesh of kings and flesh of captains and the flesh of mighty men and the flesh of horses and those that sit on them, the flesh of everybody, free and bond, small and great. Wow. Do you see the connection between these two verses? This is the thing. We got to connect the dots. Now look at Revelation 14, verse 16 through 18. They hear these angels and they see these angels. And there's one that's coming that is sitting on a cloud. And it says, the one that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle and the earth was reaped. Okay, so here we go. We got these big grapes here on the screen. And one of them comes and thrusts in his sickle. And he's reaping. But what happens? Another angel comes and thrusts in his sickle. There are two harvests. Watch. It says another angel comes out of the temple, which is in heaven, and he also has a sharp sickle. And then another angel comes out of the altar, which had power over fire, and he cries with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, thrust in your sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. Okay, so the grapes ripen over time, and we see right here there is at least two distinct harvests. Does everyone see that? All right. Now, let's take a minute and look at Matthew 13 through 39. And it says, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. Now, here we go. But look at this. The harvest is the end of the world, and who are the reapers? The angels are the reapers. Everyone was farmers back then. Okay? That's why he wanted to relate to them agriculturally. And so he talks about the barley harvest, okay, to fulfill Passover. He talks about the wheat harvest to fulfill Shabbat. Then we have this 2,000-year time gap. And now he's talking about the grape harvest. Why? Okay, because these are all dress rehearsals. Just like he came in the spring the first time, he's going to come in the fall the second time. We're to know the times and the seasons. We know he came in spring. Okay, he fulfilled the spring and summer. And we know he's coming back in the fall. Now, let me see where I'm at here. Okay, I'm going to show you something interesting about Israel and the grape harvest. Aaron Pick is a winemaker for Zorah Vineyards in the Judean Hills. And he told this place called decanter.com, we harvest how? Manually at when? Night. Okay, let me go this way. Starting at 8 p.m. And they finish about 5 a.m. And he says the reason we harvest at night is mainly because of the temperature. The grapes get to the sorting table in the winery at 6 a.m. with a temperature of 64 degrees Fahrenheit. If we harvest it during the day, he says, the temperature of the grapes could be as high as 95 degrees or more, which means it loses aromatic precursors and higher oxidation rate. So they have to harvest. Now, this is going to be in like October, okay, September, October. It says harvesting at night means a better complexity of aromatics, better control for the start of fermentation, and less oxidation of fruit. Okay, so they like to harvest at night. And isn't it interesting? It talks about the Lord coming at midnight, and this harvest is in darkness. It's the end. And so here we see this harvesting. Well, here's the thing. You have different kinds of wines. You have your sparkling wines. You have your Pinot Grigio, or your Merlots are next, your red wines. And then finally you have the ice wines. And there's a big difference between the wines and when you harvest them. So watch what happens here. Listen very carefully. There's an order for the grape harvest depending on which wine. Sparkling wine and your white wine grapes are harvested first on their way to crush, from which come the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir to ensure lower sugar levels. Culturally speaking, the red wine grapes are typically next in the harvest line as they take a bit longer to reach full maturation. In other words, there are some people that are ready to be harvested, but some need to mature a little bit before they get harvested. Finally, there's the ice wines make their way to crush after undergoing serious dehydration, think tribulation, on the vine to produce a raisin-like grape with highly concentrated sugars, perfect for your dessert wines. So we have different harvests. And there's interesting facts about the ice wines. And they get harvested closer to the winter. But grapes are different. The harvest is, for the barley is boom and it's done. For the wheat, boom and it's done. But the grape harvest is harvested in stages. Okay? Ice wine harvesting is done in the chilly midnight or early hours of the morning. Look at this. Harvesting requires a large workforce. That's why there's lots of angels. Enough to pluck the entire crop in just a matter of a few short hours. So at the very end, it's going to be quick. But the first harvest, and then there's another harvest, and then at the very end, it's a quick harvest. And all the angels are the reapers. Okay. Let's talk about the wedding of the Messiah. I just want to go over the grape harvest process first. The process of a Jewish marriage occurs in two distinct stages. There's the kiddushin, which is known as the engagement or the betrothal, and the nisuin, which is the full-fledged marriage ceremony. Once the kiddushin is complete, or the betrothal, legally, the woman is the wife of the man. The relationship created by the kiddushin can only be dissolved by death or divorce, even if it's just an engagement. However, the spouses, even though they are legally husband and wife through the engagement, they cannot live together at the time of the kiddushin, and the mutual obligations created by the marital relationship don't even take effect until the nisuin is complete. In the past, the kiddushin and the nisuin would routinely occur as much as a year apart from the engagement to the marriage. During that time, the husband would prepare a home for the new family. Yeshua says, I'm going to go prepare a place for you. There was always a risk that during this year-long period of separation, the woman would discover that she wanted to marry someone else. Or maybe the man would disappear, leaving the woman in the awkward state of being married but without a husband. So today, the two ceremonies are normally performed together. All right, now the Bible is a marriage covenant. The kiddushin is where the bride becomes holy or separated from all others, even the groom. She can't even be with the groom for that year from the engagement. So let's look. Let me bring up this little picture. We got this nice chuppah here. And Isaiah 62, 5-7. Just as Moses' tabernacle was a pattern after the heavenlies, the Jewish wedding is a pattern of how the Messiah is going to marry us. So let's look at the pattern. As a young man marries a virgin, so shall your sons marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. I have set watchmen on the walls, O Jerusalem, which will never shut up. Day nor night, you that make mention of the Lord, don't keep silent. Give him no rest until he makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. So someday, Messiah is going to marry his bride according to the Jewish wedding ceremony. So let's take a look at this. In Joel chapter 2, verse 15 and 16, it says, to blow the shofar in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children and those that suck the breast. Now here it is. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber and the bride out of her closet. But do you know what the Hebrew word for closet is? Chuppah. It's the wedding chuppah. This is talking about the wedding chuppah. Okay? Now, look at this. In Revelation 2:17, we see the bride receives a new name, just like today. Revelation 2:17. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the assemblies. To him that overcomes, I will give to eat of the hidden manna. Give him a what? A white stone, and in the stone there's going to be a new name written, which no one knows but the one that receives it. So here at the wedding ceremony, what happens? Boom! You're given a white stone, and on it is your new name, and also the Messiah's new name. Let's watch what happens. Revelation 3:12. Him that overcomes, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. He'll go no more out. I will write upon him the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. You're not just going to get a new name yourself. You're going to get the name of the Lord, the name of the city, and Yeshua's new name. As a matter of fact, I thought this was fascinating. In Jeremiah 23:5-6, behold, the days come, says the Lord, I will raise to David a righteous branch, speaking of Yeshua. A king will reign and prosper. He'll execute judgment and justice in the earth. And in his days, Judah will be saved. Israel will dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Right? That's his name. Is that what it says? He shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Well, guess what? When you marry someone, you get the same last name. Well, look at Jeremiah 33:15-16. In those days at that time, I'll cause a branch of righteousness to grow up to David, and he will execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days, Judah will be saved, Jerusalem will dwell safely, and this is the name wherewith she shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. Wow, he's called the Lord our righteousness, and the bride's going to be called the Lord our righteousness. Then, in the Kiddushin, or the rite of betrothal, and the Erusin, which is the completed rite, there's the drinking of the cup of the covenant. Now, marriages were arranged by the